Before we begin, please be advised that this show may contain some adult themes and language that may not be suitable for all listeners. Now, onto our show. Welcome to the Sip and Saga Society, where we cover histories, mysteries, and overall weird ass shit. My name's Karina, and I'm wondering why we made the name a tongue twister because I can barely say it every time. I was struggling through that. Joining us, as always, is Christina and Nevada. Woo!
Woo!
But Nev, what are you sipping? Because Christina's being a mom right now.
I've got you. I've got reduce, reuse, recycle water. The water's not recycled, just the cup. But
I was like, how do you recycle the water in your own home? Like, I want to know.
I didn't. It's just
Thank you.
filtered. This is a jeune. I believe it is strawberry. I don't remember. Oh no, it's rose petal. And then I have iced coffee, also in a
Oh,
mason jar because I missed Arkansas. Felt fitting. So I got all the
yeah, that's what I
fineries.
drink out of whenever I miss home.
Amazing.
Mason jar. And like, I have an extra big one my mom brought me, and I use that one sometimes. Like, it's huge. I love it.
There's just something about it. I'm like, this is a to-go glass. It's completely inconvenient. I'm going with it.
Yes, I'm taking this. It doesn't fit in any cup holder.
None.
It's square.
I
So,
always spill it a little
yeah.
bit.
Yep,
I can't
everywhere.
everywhere.
But, Christina, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, go.
So, in honor of that, well, this is our celebratory drink, yes?
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
So we did a celebratory drink because this is our last part of our Elizabeth Packard story, and she finally gets some good stuff happening. So I'm excited. I mean, she got, sane for the last trial, so that was pretty good. But then Theophilus took her kids, so it was not good. So good things are happening. And I was
Yay.
like, let's celebrate together. So, yes,
Yay. Cheers to that.
I love it.
So, I went to the Asian market earlier, and so I got me a little boba for
Oh,
her.
whoa, that's cool.
Ooh.
Yes. And it is passion fruit tea with like rainbow jellies. So, I thought this was fun. And
I love that.
yeah.
Ah,
Are the
that's so cute.
little are the little pieces like are they actual boba or are they pieces of fruit?
Yeah, it's like a little like
Fruit
gelatin.
jelly?
Yeah, fruit jellies. They're like jellies. Yeah.
Ooh. The shape threw me
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, because they're like
Bro,
little cubes.
Yeah.
I was inspired by Christina a few episodes ago, and I have a
Ah!
popping boba drink
Ooh,
as well,
yum.
but it's the canned, and I honestly thought you were gonna get the canned. That's why I'm so shook. You're like, what? A whole beverage? Ah. But mine is mango passion fruit green tea.
That looks so good.
That does look really good.
I tried boba for the first time the other day, so now I can be like, ooh, I know that's good.
Wait, Christina, do you have any other beverages?
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is you said boba in a can, and I actually do have my OG brown
Eh,
brown sugar milk tea in a can in the fridge.
Ooh.
But
I'm
I do have
prepped.
my like OG my little aloe
Oh,
Alabama
aloe
Yum.
pomegranate.
beverage.
Because yeah, these also have like the little aloe jellies in it, and that's one of my favorite things.
Does
So
that have pomegranates in it?
it does.
Hot. I
It's
love how
so
we
Yum.
good.
celebrate, guys.
It's so refreshing.
I really wanted to go hard, and I guess I don't know what I thought was happening this weekend. So, in addition to water and popping boba, passion fruit tea, I was like, okay, if I made a beverage, like this is the ultimate beverage. I
Hmm.
picked, instead of regular orange juice for my mimosa that I'm making with cupcake prosecco, I chose to do a combo of It's the brand Evolution, and it's orange, apple, mango, pineapple, and acerola.
How do you spell that? I Arcelo. What?
Acerola. I don't know what it is.
Hmm.
Oh, it's
Sounds
a
good.
cherry. It's a cherry.
Oh, hey, is the cupcake Prosecco, does it actually taste like cupcakes or is it just like, can you explain it to me?
It's Cupcake brand.
I don't like
The
cupcake brand personally.
I personally like Cupcake
Do
brand,
you?
so every time I've tried, but I'm a sweet tooth girl.
Is it Lamara? That brand I have had a lot. Is that Lamara?
No, this is Cupcake brand.
Say it again
Prosecco.
one more time for me.
It's brand of cupcake.
Of cupcake, but
Yes,
not
no,
flavor.
it's
No
not
flavor.
flavor. It's
Okay.
not flavored. It's a Prosecco wine, but it's not flavored. The brand is just Cupcake. It's like Dove or whatever is the
Okay,
brand name.
cupcake. Okay,
Yeah, but
cupcake.
I feel like that is deceitful because you're like, oh, it's gonna be super, super sweet. It's cupcakes,
I
but
thought I
it's
would
not.
be able to put like whipped cream and some sprinkles on the top of it and like,
No, it's just like a liquid in a
hmm.
bottle. It's disrespectful.
It's just a liquid in a bottle.
It's
Rub
nothing
me the
crazy.
I'm a genie in a bottle.
But
You
I am
gotta rub me
scared. I
the
am
right
scared
way.
about the popping up part.
That's my favorite part. Oh, I have a friend who can use a saber to like take the corks off. It always breaks the bottle, but it's a cool party trick.
I did it.
Salud!
Thank you.
Are we going to cheers with our fancy drinks? That's why I use my fancy cup.
I think so. Cheers,
We got
everyone.
cheers. Oh, salud.
Oh, that's very good. I like that a lot. Also, this cup Christina got me for my birthday. Not
Does
a
it
day
say?
over fabulous.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. Who's this
Oh,
dude?
thank you. I am fashionable. Anyway, so like I said, this is our last part of our Elizabeth story. And when we had last, oh my God, let me try it again. So this is the last part of Elizabeth Packard's story, and we're going to continue to use the book "The Women They Could Not Silence" as our source. The book is by Kate Moore.
Okay.
So Elizabeth, had been finally freed from the asylum after 3 years. So then she ends up going home eventually and she makes Theophilus take her to court so that she can finally prove that she is sane. But there, she loses her children when Theophilus runs away before the trial is even over. Due to the immense lack of power women and especially married women had during this time, she really had no rights to her money, her property, or even her children. After some soul searching and bad press, Elizabeth decides to finally divorce her trash can husband and fight for herself and her children.
Yeah, girl.
Now she
Pop
just
off,
has to
slut.
find a way to make money. I said, I don't know why I was like, Theophilus is a sad bitch. But I think it's because, okay, so
Because he's a sad, miserable bitch.
Theophilus knew he was going to lose that case and that everyone was on the side of Elizabeth. So he,
Womp
instead of
womp.
staying there through the court case, Christina, she mimed crying. It was funny. Um, so instead of staying there, he was like, I don't want to give her what she wants. I'm going to take the kids because he knew that's where it was going to hurt her the most. He's
This
like, I was
motherfucker.
scared for my life. But okay. So one of Elizabeth's main concerns was that although she may be legally divorced from Theophilus, so at this point she hasn't. But like she was thinking about it, like if she gets divorced, that's no guarantee that she's going to get custody of her kids. She has no home, she has no income, no way of standing on her own. Um, she wanted to become her own protector, but how? You know, the Civil War had given women many opportunities to take on jobs in post offices, shops, factories, but it was competitive because there were so many widows around all that time because of the war that were also needing to support themselves. There were too many workers and not enough jobs, and the wages were low. And also, a woman working at that time was still going to make less than a man. And a woman working a 14-hour day making shirts could earn about $1.54 a week. There were better positions in cities, but the cost of living continued to rise consistently. Things like butter jumped from 10 cents to 50 cents, making it impossible to make out an independent living. Elizabeth decided to use her strongest talent, though, her writing, which I feel like is very similar to today. Every other minute, there's like something raising in price. Every time I go to Walmart, something is too expensive. JK, I don't go to Walmart anymore.
Me either. You won't catch me in a Walmart.
I can't. I just haven't been able to make myself do it.
I stopped shopping at Target as a whole.
Pop off,
And
babe. Woo!
yeah, because well, we're not gonna get into it in this. I'll wait till after we're done recording to talk about that. But Walmart, I try to limit, and I've been
Yes,
shopping at Aldi a lot more.
we go to Sprouts. We're so I mean, we're so bougie, but
We do natural grocers and the like food co-op here, but we also have a Fairway, so we do,
oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that is the
I'm
sad thing.
waiting
Is
for
like
the Whole
there's
Foods to open. There's a Whole Foods gonna open in Rogers, so
Ooh, bestie.
I'm ready for that.
But I think they partner with Amazon, which like Amazon's been a hard one for
Yeah,
me to cut out. I did for a
that one's been
while.
hard for me too.
I deleted the app because it was a struggle.
That was a big help, like not
And no,
having it
it
on my
was
phone. Yeah.
because then I don't already have the list. I'm not already like
Yeah.
just press get paid and
Yeah.
buy it. Like no. Anyway, so Elizabeth, who had no money and no Amazon, went to her friend Sarah Hazlitt's home where she had stored her furniture and papers. She had hidden her documents there that were full of her stories from the asylum behind her bedroom mirror. Like, do you guys remember like forever ago where she wrote down like all of what was going on in the asylum and McFarlane was going to send her away, and so she hid them in a mirror that she owned.
I remember.
And so there she went back and found the mirror, and there were the records that she had hidden.
Hell
She,
yeah.
she was motivated to expose McFarland, but mostly her desire to free her sisters, the many thousands that were still enduring the horrors of these inquisitions, from which she had already been freed from by the courts. Because she's like they've already said she's not insane. She can be a free woman. It's always around this time that I forget, like, did I record? Did I hit record? Did I hit record? I did. I know. She wanted to create a pamphlet to enlighten the public mind into the true nature and character of the insane institutions. She reached out to her friend, Mrs. Priscilla Hosmer, who used to work in the asylum sewing room, and she fully supported Elizabeth's ideas to publish her pamphlet. Elizabeth knew her story would always have the background stigma of insanity, and this way it was more than just her corroborating the story. So she had like not just her saying these things are going on. And it's also someone that worked in the asylum to back up all of her pamphlets information. Elizabeth worked on the pamphlet while Theophilus submitted his file of documents to the Chicago Tribune. So, like all the paperwork he used in her court case, he used and put it in the newspaper so that everyone could read about her craziness. Although the package of documents was too immense for which it is impossible for us to find room, the newspaper still printed their own verdict of Elizabeth's case on March 12th, 1864. They said Elizabeth Packard was afflicted with the species of monomania. Despite the way she displayed an almost
Wait,
supernatural strength of mind. Oh, go ahead.
what's monomania again?
That it's that like where you're crazy for only a specific subject. So they're like, she's crazy
Autism.
about this rights thing. Yeah, basically, they're like, she's really into this, and
Her
that's
special
too much.
interest? Oh
It's too much. She's
no.
crazy over her special interests. Hmm.
Can't have
So,
hobbies.
nope. Despite the way she displayed an almost supernatural strength of mind, the public should give this painful subject no further thought. So, even though she looks really smart, she's actually really crazy. So,
She's dumb and she's a manic.
so, a fun fact that's slightly unrelated to this,
Okay.
but I found it fun enough to include, was that in Chicago around this time, the 1860s, the population grew quickly, but people were still allowed to legally keep livestock in the city, resulting in a sewage-rich river. uh, and I was like, people were pooping in the streets too. Like, people were just like shitting everywhere.
They like lean over the bridge and just take a big
Ugh.
dump into the water. They're like, the cows do it. Why not me?
The idea of it was just so gross to me of just like, and we just keep our cows and chickens and turtles and whatever all up in here. Like, oof. In
No way, dude.
1864, the population was 171,356 people and continued to grow. Elizabeth borrowed money from the family she was living with so she could go to the city. She made arrangements with a Times steam job printing house to print 2,000 copies of her 32-page pamphlet. That is a booklet, girl.
That you should just sell that as a
That's the book. I wonder how tall it was. Anyway,
32 pages. This, right?
Yeah, that's a thick pamphlet. I mean,
Because
yeah,
Harry Potter's like this big.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
500. So like
I think it's way less than that, Neth.
that's a book.
That's what I think,
It's a day read for
for
sure.
sure. The facts of the case were so well known there, I needed no other passport to the confidence of the public. So people were already like, oh, we heard about this one. We want to buy it.
We don't want it.
I mean, I would want to buy it. Like, this lady spent all this time in the asylum. I want to know more. She planned on selling the pamphlets for 25 cents each, so like $4. But I said, honestly, but it's probably so it's 25 cents at that time. Now it would be around $4, but I was like, but with this current economy, it's probably $89 because OMFMG. Like
Yeah, no, for
Yeah, for
real.
real. Yeah, yeah.
she wrote that McFarland was not fit for his place and
Ooh.
hoped that the country would take steps to stop him. Damn, imagine being so
Who's this
terrible.
diva?
Someone wrote a pamphlet
Yes.
about how people that you're not good enough at your job and you need to be stopped by the government. Wow. She wanted to focus on publishing her book and was determined to self-publish. I shan't trouble myself to go around and ask if I have written the right sort of book. It won't be kept down any more than this author can be.
Hell yeah.
I know. But book publishing was pricey, and Elizabeth only had health, education, and energy, so she really couldn't afford it yet. But
Iconic.
I know. I only have energy. I can't come back. But she wouldn't turn, she wasn't going to go back to Mantino and become a burden on her friends the way that Theophilus did. Like, she wasn't going to go and live with her friends for free and like beg for people for money. She wanted to make her own way in this world. And so she was like, no. She definitely isn't going to go back to Theophilus or even her father because her father believed Theophilus and had called the trial a sham. So she's trying to find support with her family, and her dad's like, "No, you're crazy. I know you're crazy."
He's like, I've known you.
Mm-hmm. She had to do this alone with only herself and her writing for support. So she decided to start a GoFundMe. I'm kidding. She went to like house to house, and her plan
Ah,
was to sell tickets for her book,
first MLM. I see. It's like Tupperware, but for her book.
basically, in advance to its printing to raise the capital required. So she would go around and she'd sell tickets to this book that she hasn't printed yet.
It's a kickstart.
Literally, yeah, she kickstarted.
Hell
And she's
yeah.
like, I must inspire my patron sufficient confidence in my veracity, ability, and perseverance. So they would pay 50 cents per book for a ticket that she could redeem in 3 months for the book that they had made. And she would need to convince at least 1,400 people to invest in order to be able to print the book. She, tr- she had to try, even if it seemed impossible. So she made little cards that said, "The bearer is entitled to the first volume of Mrs. Packard's book, and none are genuine without my signature." And then she would sign them. And on March 23rd, 1864, she took out an advertisement in the Chicago Tribune. She went door to door, she sold tickets and pamphlets, and relied on her personality to entice readers to buy her book. And she had no connections, like she didn't know people. But yes, I feel like it was crazy that she was just like, I'm gonna go door to door to the random people's houses and just ask them for money.
I like it.
No, yeah,
The
because
Lulu is the Salulu.
she's hustling. So she had no connections like her husband did. She had to make friends and spent her day telling and retelling her story. This kind of work was not the norm at this time. Also, Elizabeth had no male escort. She was just wandering around knocking on doors without fear. She stepped out of the domestic sphere, not just quietly, but in the newspaper and literally in the streets. It was a risky strategy because of the unnatural female behavior she was exhibiting, as well as its immoral connotations. But Elizabeth is of the streets. Nev, you and your immoral of the streetness.
I am the
Hmm.
little leprechaun. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm gay.
Okay, well, okay.
That's what my shirt
But I'm
says.
gonna be gay when I get there. So that's cute. I like it. Okay, focus. I said in a woman in public working, risking ruining her reputation irreparably.
No.
Oh, I lost it. But you know she
Like,
had to.
she had to.
Oh, there it went. It was her. I mean, what other choice did she have other than going back home and living with her friends?
Is
Genuinely.
she's divorced at this point, yeah.
No, she's not. She's not
Oh,
divorced yet. She's still married
she
to Theophilus. So the other thing,
Tofana.
well, the
Tofana.
other risk she has too is that at any time Theophilus, he can't send her to jail in Illinois or to the asylum in Illinois. He can send her to any other asylum. She wasn't sane anywhere else. She's just sane in Illinois. So she's
Oh.
worried about going to like Massachusetts where he is with his kids and being sent to the asylum again. Her son, Toffee, found out what his mother was doing and wrote a letter to his father and grandfather and said, if you have any regard for her and wish to keep her from ruining herself temporally and spiritually, adopt some plan to get her into proper keeping. Mothers were for cooking and raising children. They weren't supposed to have their own lives, but Elizabeth felt that the more freedom she had, the more she wanted. Same, Elizabeth. I will not be kept down.
I am a flightful bird.
Sorry. Okay. She went off to the streets and railroads, villages, and towns all over Illinois. She pitched her book and sold her pamphlet. She even sold one to Mayor Sherman, the mayor of Chicago. It was hard for the community to ignore the plights of women when they were literally standing on their doorstep, like Elizabeth was. And she made sure nobody forgot about her. She was all up in everyone's business. But speaking of her business, the divorce between Theophilus and Elizabeth went to court in April 1864. Theophilus did not bother to come back for the court case. He didn't want the social and spiritual stigma of being divorced. He wanted to fight her on it. But Elizabeth just abandoned the case. She did not care that much. She was like, I'm going to focus on persuading people that legal reform is necessary so that I can get my rights and not have to be worried about, even if I'm divorced, I'm not going to be able to do anything. There's no point. She said, I don't want another sister in America to suffer as much as I have. So she
Pop
focused
off.
on reforming to save people from other abuses of power.
Fuck yeah. I
Look,
love
it's
her.
Christina.
It's
I do
C
love her.
40. So, did you know in the state of, or before divorce became federally legal, like without fault divorce, South Dakota was one of the only states that had it. So, people would come from all around the country to get a no fault divorce.
I'm gonna sound so stupid. I don't understand what that means.
So, like, a no fault is like nobody is at fault for the divorce. So, like, it used to be that somebody had to do something that was like essentially against the Bible to warrant a
Oh,
divorce, to warrant a divorce.
instead of just being like, we don't want to be together.
Yes.
Oh.
Amicable. And so the building that we rent for the studio was
Hmm.
the building where people would go to sign their divorce papers.
Huh. Freedom
Yeah.
energy.
You come for the liberation, dude.
I guess so. So Elizabeth dropped the divorce proceedings and in May of 1864 returned to Chicago. She handed $700, so now that would be about 11,000, to the printer and
Damn.
eventually, I know, and eventually held in her hands the book that she had started in the asylum. She
Did
named
she
it,
cry?
I mean, I would, like,
I would have cried.
imagine. She
All that
named
work.
it The Exposure.
Yes. Oh, that's a good name.
hmm
Okay.
The book included her defense from 1860, so when she went to court, and statements from when she went in front of the Board of Trustees to like plead for her freedom, an account of her trial from her lawyer, as well as her appeal to the government for protection. She wanted to call people to action with her book. She dedicated her book to her children and wrote, "Women are not made to creep and crawl as the haters of our sex want us to do."
Ooh,
I
Papa.
was like, yeah, Elizabeth.
I'd go to listen to that slam poetry.
I know. I want to hear her more of her writing. I honestly did try to look for some of her books because I wanted to see if I could buy one, and I could not find one. But also if they were pamphlets. And also at this time, people were using them as toilet paper. So really,
Yeah. Good.
hmm
These people.
Elizabeth's goal was to write a book that people can't help buying. The second edition of her book was up for sale by June 18th, 1864. She sold $3,000 worth of books, so about $49,000. Elizabeth did it all. She handled production, distribution, sales, and marketing. She used her finances to publish a follow-up book called Marital Power Exemplified. She comes up with these like wild ass names. Like she's like, I
I
want it to
like
sound
it.
dramatic. No, I like it too, but it's all it just comes out real aggressive. I'm
You're
into it.
like, I guess I have to, now I have to buy the book and read it. Like, what?
And with that kind of name, she used her finances to publish the follow-up book, oh yes, Marital Power Exemplified, which focused on women's rights, as well as how married women were liable to suffer in the same way that she had. So I'm sure most women at this time didn't know like how few rights they had. Because like, why would you know that unless you were imprisoned or something, you know? Until
Exactly.
you're in jail. The second book proved to be another success. She hand sold 500 copies at $1, so about $16 each. In January of 1865, Elizabeth began campaigning to get started on her God-given mission, the reformation of the laws that govern married women. Sometimes Elizabeth herself would question where she found the courage and dauntless persevering that kept her going. And her answer was always in women. And I
Oh.
was like, that's beautiful. I know. She began her campaign in Massachusetts, where Theophilus had run off with their kids. She wanted to be close to them, but the laws were similar to those of Illinois, giving her more motivation to change the law before Theophilus sent her back to the asylum. Because she's living there, so she can still get sent to the asylum at any time.
This
If she's
motherfucker.
in the same state with Theophilus, like the threat is always there.
Kill him.
She asked a lawyer, Samuel Sewall, for help with changing those laws. Mr. Sewall was passionate about helping women and had experience with helping women fight their way out of the asylum and had done his own work to get the laws changed himself. They worked together, with Elizabeth appearing in person to form committees to plead for change. Sewall put out a petition to gain public support. His name was the only one that appeared on the paperwork for change submitted to the Massachusetts House of Representatives. But it was Elizabeth who pounded the streets of Boston getting signatures while selling her books at the same time. She became friends with sailors, engineers, bankers, literally everyone. Any criticism was met with, I have just as good a right to discuss politics as any man.
Hell yeah.
So on May 16th, 1865, Massachusetts amended their insanity law and it was strengthened to protect those being sent away by informing a number of interested persons of the event. So like that way your husband couldn't just send you to jail or to the asylum and nobody know. Like you would also be telling, your dad and your mom and people that
Yeah.
would tell you would be able to keep you out of the asylum.
Yeah, but they don't trust her. They think she's insane too, right?
No, but what I mean is like not just Elizabeth, but like everybody.
Oh,
So they
okay.
changed the law so that you couldn't just send somebody away without other people being notified about it.
Good.
Yeah, that is good.
Hmm. She's kind of like really kick-ass, honestly.
Hmm. It's crazy how like you don't really hear or like learn about stuff like this though. Because to me, even though I know that like I don't know, I know that us is like in feminism in itself or whatever, like you don't hear a whole bunch, but like for her to do that, like that's big, that's like major to me. Like, because I mean, being sent to an asylum just for whatever is nuts. And for her to change that to where they're like, nah, you gotta be a little bit more elaborate than that. Like, that's big.
She does way more, but no, I agree with you. I think it's wild that like in my whole school career and all of my reading, I've never come across anyone talking about her. I've never heard her name before
Yep.
I started reading this book. And I was like, that's freaking crazy because that means before her, nobody had ever been like, No, women shouldn't just be in the asylum because her husband said so."
Yeah, because she
Like
didn't
I
do
think
what he
that
said.
we assume that we had a lot of more rights than we did.
Yeah.
And then that's the thing that you have to remember. She was only even sent to the asylum because she was talking too much at the Bible study, and Theophilus got mad about it. That's why she went to the asylum for 3 years and is not allowed to see her kids. Like, that's crazy. Anyway.
And then was manipulated by the McFarlane.
Yeah,
On
fucking
top of that,
creep.
like, yeah.
The emotional trauma. Elizabeth used her triumph of this win to feel the confidence that she needed to continue to make changes. She campaigned in Connecticut after her win in Boston. She proposed a radical bill that any woman entering a marriage relation shall retain the same legal existence and legal protection as does a man. But the committee considered this proposal too radical at this time. They were like, Elizabeth, you're getting a little too extra. But she didn't let it get her down. She said, My work ain't done yet, and I ain't any of your half sort of folks. So she's like,
That's my girl.
I know, I'm not about half-assing this. I'm about keep doing this. So Elizabeth decided to make her way back to Illinois. She had never forgotten the women she had left behind in the asylum. She made sure to visit the town of all her friends that were still in the asylum to go talk to, and like she also mailed letters to their families to try to get them released so that she wasn't, you know, she didn't just forget about them when she left the asylum. She tried to rescue them, but most of their families just ignored her letters. She made sure to visit the towns of her friends, and she even revisited the asylum once, and they allowed her in. But McFarland insisted that she was too dangerous to go by herself, so he chaperoned her the whole time. There was
He
still,
is so like, ugh, like he got such a power trip. Like, I would have been like, get away from me, sir.
and he
Like,
has like no degree. That's the part that I can't
yeah.
stand. He has no schooling. There's nothing. He just was like, I'm a
Hit him in the
psychologist
forehead.
now. He's
Hit him in
so
the
annoying.
forehead. Just
Yes.
boop. Anyway,
Just a,
I can't stand a motherfucker.
he's so annoying.
Yeah.
Oh, who's this diva?
There were still many locked up based only on the evidence of McFarland's words. But after Elizabeth's book was published, there were severe comments made in Illinois about McFarland, but despite all the talk, he was never held accountable for any of his actions. McFarland had been unanimously reappointed by the Board of Trustees, given a 10-year tenure, so that way he couldn't be fired, and also a pay raise. The media worked in his favor, endorsing his media tours, where they were invited to tour the hospital, served a substantial dinner, and toasted to McFarland's health while smoking Havana cigars. They
Bitch
went
pie.
on about how well the asylum was conducted, as well as how able and accomplished the superintendent was.
Ew. Ew. It's like the blind leading the
The drunk.
blind. I don't even know.
Just like
Straight off a
everyone's
cliff.
just like, we all know what he's doing. He's just buying these people off.
Yeah.
Oh my
Okay.
God. Elizabeth's case really messed with McFarland.
Oh,
Which,
did
like,
it?
honestly,
Good.
yes, because if you're sane and everyone's proving her to be sane, and you were the doctor that kept her in prison for 3 years. Like,
You look like a fucking tool bag, which you are,
exactly.
but
Elizabeth's case really messed with him. He devoted his first report of the year about her, although he never mentioned her by name. When questioned about her insanity trial, he called it a sham of a trial and stated that Elizabeth was insane to a very high degree. He went as far as using her political campaigning and book writing as proof of her insanity.
if
Is Go ahead.
if anything, at least, he doubled down. He was
You know
like,
what though? You need to. If you're gonna be calling people crazy, you need to be strong about it.
if you're gonna be wrong, you better be
You better be loud and wrong. Is her
most.
course exactly a natural one? Those who believe her story should ask themselves whether a woman who had been truly wronged ever goes to work in this fashion.
Okay, pipe down.
I mean, if a woman was really wrong, why would she say to everyone that she's being wronged? That's crazy.
Dude.
Ah, shocking. In his eyes, it was unnatural and insane. Elizabeth read his words all the way from Connecticut. And so this time, Elizabeth was spending her time doing law reform in Massachusetts and Connecticut. And then she reads this in the paper about McFarland talking about her. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to go to Illinois to quote unquote turn Jacksonville Asylum inside out.
Hell yeah, bitch.
Elizabeth's suffering had changed the laws in Illinois even when she didn't get the credit. In February 16th of 1865, a new law had passed that allowed all accused of insanity to have a jury trial before being committed. Elizabeth became friends with a Chicago judge, James Bradwell, and learned that the law would need no penalties if anyone was non-compliant with the new law. So it's now a law that you have to go to court before you send someone to jail or to the asylum, but no one's going to check and no one's going to make sure there's no penalty for not doing it. It's just the law now. Like, so what's the point? You can make any law, but if there's no penalties after it, no one's going to follow the
Yeah, that seems a bit
rules.
redundant.
They'd be like,
It's stupid. Anyway, if anyone was non-compliant, oh yeah, the law was not also not retroactive, so people that were already in the asylum would not be saved by the passing of that law. Elizabeth wanted to amend the law to help free those unjustly imprisoned. She put together a petition to enlist support, and she even went to the governor's mansion to discuss with him the new bill she was trying to bring before the legislature. He told her he thought the asylum was fine and he was close personal friends with McFarland. So he's like, come on.
Uh-uh.
I know, like,
I don't
what?
understand. Yeah.
He's my friend. We smoke
no,
cigars together. That's my
throat
bro.
cancer. The only reason they smoke the cigars, though, isn't because they like cigars. They just like the shape of it.
There's nothing wrong with liking a good shape.
It is when it's putting women in danger.
That's true. That's the only time.
They're sucking each other off.
In theory, yes. It's symbolic.
And they were both boys. Mwah.
Okay. She showed the governor her petition full of signatures of influential friends who had given her their support. McFarlane wasn't the only one with friends in high spaces. So he read the names, and then the governor changed his tone and invited her to the office the next day. He listened to her and offered her assistance as well as introduced her to Elmer Baldwin, a member of the House of Representatives. This allowed Elizabeth to pitch her bill across the state.
Hell yeah.
She made sure they added a penalty to the bill, so a fine no less than $500 and no more than $1,000, or imprisonment not less than 3 months or more than a year, or both. So, like, if you didn't do it, you could go to jail and owe a lot of money. Also, any doctor who admitted a patient to an asylum, like, if you admitted a patient to the asylum without a trial, you would be subject to penalty or imprisonment or both. as well as she made sure there was a deadline introduced for the trials of current inmates in the asylum. So
Ew!
60 days, bless you,
I'm
child.
so sorry.
That's you.
Ew! Oh my God.
So 60 days from the time this bill became a law, you had to have a trial within 60 days, or you would be going against the law and subject to a penalty. When Elizabeth was satisfied with the bill, it was introduced to the General Assembly in mid-January of 1867. So now she has to keep promoting this bill so that people vote for it when the Senate goes to a meeting, right? So the Chicago Tribune and Chicago Times wrote editorials endorsing her work. Dr. McFarlane was livid about this bill as well as the law. He felt like the law was bullshit and strongly objected to the passing of this new bill. He called it injurious, damnable, and barbarous. He objected the jury's trials, feeling that the haphazard opinions of men grossly ignorant of the subject before them were not meant to determine sanity. Only experts like him should judge people. The best part of this is if you listen to part one, we learned that during this time, mental health doctors were literally just people that decided they wanted to be mental health doctors, so now they're mental health doctors, and anything they say is facts. So, okay, I'm glad you guys get to be the ones in charge.
Yay for nobody
I
else.
know. I was like, okay, you just decided one day to be a doctor. Shut up. What do you know?
Nothing, boy.
I know. He actively campaigned against the law changes. He met with politicians in hotels and boarding houses and shared his professional opinions about Elizabeth. He said, in nearly 3,000 admissions here, a question of unfair commitment was never seriously raised in a single instance.
Uh,
Elizabeth
okay.
heard his claims, which he published in his annual report, and so then she published her own response and said, has the doctor forgotten that the question has been once at least seriously raised by the court of Kankakee City in the case of one whom that court decided had been falsely imprisoned for 3 years? So, what I love about this time, and I think we should bring back, is people fighting in newspapers. I don't think it happens enough,
Oh
is what I'm
yeah.
saying. It's way cooler than like fighting on Facebook.
Hell yeah, because you all have to wait for it. You have to like wait till the next day.
I know.
I want a gossip column, I'll be
Yeah.
honest.
Why don't we do that anymore?
That's a
Who are
great
we
one.
who are we gossiping about?
Local people.
I kind of want to do that now. Make a gossip column, and it's just like that would be funny. The Sip and Saga gossip column. What are we learning today? Elizabeth decided that fighting in the media wasn't the only move she needed to have against McFarlane. She asked an owner of the boarding house if she could meet the same men McFarlane was meeting up with to tell them her side of the story.
Hell yeah.
But also remember, she has to meet them in a public space because she's a girl. And so she need to make sure that like other people could see her not being a hoe. She also brought along copies of her book and her pamphlets to give away for free to help further her cause because we gotta stay hustling. Elizabeth's strategy wasn't to be pushy, but to seem weak and defenseless. Men had to protect them by passing the laws she proposed. She flattered lawmakers, telling them she knew that they would never dream of treating women badly. But if bad men like her husband didn't exist, Elizabeth wouldn't have to beg true men, like the lawmakers, to protect them. So
That was good.
I know, right?
That was good.
Elizabeth knew that if she came at them with her radical ideas of like women's rights, that they were going to be like, she's crazy. She definitely needs to go to the asylum. This is too much. But she wanted to see the change now. She didn't want to die before like seeing this change. So she made sure that it happened. And she played to her strengths. And they worked. Those men literally like loved her. And
Hell
they always talked
yeah.
great things about her. She wanted change now, and she did so by earning the praise of the men she was working with to convince. Her bill was growing in favor with the public. Bless you.
I could have paused that. I'm sorry.
She was not the only one sharing her story with others. Like, she knew people writing their own stories to the newspapers. They were horrible revelations published of the violence and terrible climate people suffered in the asylums. So Elizabeth made sure that people never forgot. She was
Good.
always like encouraging other people to write their stories, publishing stories, was always going telling people stuff. On February 12th, 1867, she was personally invited to address the General Assembly and ended by saying, "Gentlemen, so far as you are concerned, my work is done now. So basically, I've done all I can do.
Hell
Your
yeah.
work remains to be done. God grant you, God grant you may dare to do it right." The men called her a sensation and then planned a trip to visit the Jacksonville Asylum the very next day after her speech. The politicians were wined and dined at the asylum. And also, mind you, it literally, you have to remember this is a time where people plan things like forever in advance. And it took like 17 years to get anywhere because you had to ride a horse. So the fact that they were getting there the next day, they didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this
Damn.
visit. But they did make sure that they were treated really well, that the politicians that showed up to inspect the asylum were treated like to concerts and like a great dinner. But they did make time to inspect the asylum as well as interview the patients. Many of those that toured the hospital were left with the impression that a lot of the people there shouldn't be locked up and should be removed from the asylum. One man even wrote an article that there should be something more than a medical director, something more than mere board of trustees keeping people locked in this asylum. But of course, McFarland and the board of trustees disagreed that their work needed any inspection. But Elizabeth did all she could do to keep those stories in the public eye and sharing her memories and those of different patients from the asylum. But McFarland did have his own senators on his side who spoke out publicly on his behalf. But by that point, the rumors were too loud. McFarland wrote to his friend, the governor, to ask for a chance to clear his name. Because, like, really, how far can you go with everyone talking shit about you like that? One member of the House of Representatives, T.B. Wakeman, proposed a special commitment to be appointed to fully investigate these charges. Oh, not commitment, a committee. He's like, we keep hearing about all of this stuff.
What is this commitment shit?
Yeah, we need to commit. So the appointment of this investigating committee was mainly the result of the efforts of Mrs. Packard, is what he said. He's like, without her bringing this to our attention, we never would have done this. And he's like,
Damn.
this needs to be investigated. Obviously, if people are getting, assaulted in this place where they're supposed to be cared for, that's not okay. Did we all hear that? We're not supposed to be doing that. We're not supposed to be hurting people that you're supposed to be taking care of. Just in case everyone didn't know.
Heavy on that part.
Well, you know what, Christina? I'm saying it because people don't know.
They
I'm
don't, and
seeing
it's
that.
yeah, yeah. And it's sad that that should even have to be said, but yeah, we
Yeah.
don't do that. We don't act like that,
Yeah.
okay? Don't do that.
We all have big feelings.
Yeah.
We don't have to hit people. That's okay. No. Have you seen that lady on TikTok? I don't watch TikToks anymore, but she's like that preschool teacher, and she's like, we keep our hands to ourselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love her. That's me right now with everybody. No, no friend. You don't do that.
No, friend.
Uh, anyway, so this committee, so they appointed this committee to go and check out the asylum. And this came about just as the Senate was coming together to vote on the bill that Elizabeth had been fighting for. So, what do you guys think happened to her bill?
It went through. It's through. Please tell me it's through.
Every single senator voted for it. It passed unanimously.
Yes,
Woo!
ma'am.
The bill was signed into law on March 5th, 1867.
The day after my birthday. Yes, ma'am.
Isn't that amazing? I was like, hell yeah. Anyway,
I love that for her.
for me too.
Oh, me
The
too.
Yeah, also me.
Also me. The politicians gave her a certified copy as a memento, and she kept it for years. She was the
Oh,
prime motivator in originating it and securing its passage. Eventually, the committee would hold Dr. McFarlane and the Board of Trustees to a trial where they would call Mrs. Packard to court to battle it out against Dr. McFarlane. And I'm going to tell you guys, that court case was crazy. I did not include it in here. So if you want to get it, you really have to read the book. And she's got some great lines. That's the one thing about Mrs. Packard. She's not going to be quiet when she's going through all this bullshit. She's going to tell you like it is. And it gets spicy. But I was like, I can't put it all in here. So you definitely have to read it if you
Yeah,
want to
I'm
know.
curious about how that went because I know that after a while she like disliked him, and she was like, "You want to play that game? We could play."
We can play.
So I know she was ready.
To get him. Yeah, I would be too.
Yeah, me too.
The committee would find that in the case of an unjust imprisonment at the asylum, 205 patients, so the asylum only had 205 patients, 57 of those, only 57 of those had complete paperwork. That meant that
only.
the rest of the people there didn't have anything, and so that like them being admitted was a violation of the law.
Oh,
And that there should appear so large a portion of the admission in violation of the law shows a carelessness on this subject without excuse, is what the committee said.
yeah.
So the governor, fucking governor, was his friend, remember? The governor did nothing with the committee's report.
Of
He decided
course.
he just wanted to sit on it and just think a little bit. Elizabeth felt that the results of the investigation confirmed the truth of all of her charges that she had brought up against the superintendent. And she didn't hate Dr. McFarland, but she felt vindicated in knowing that she was right about him. She's like, I done told y'all that motherfucker back there is not real. And she was right, you know? So McFarland went on a rampage and attacked her character.
Oh, who's crazy now?
And
Who's
if you remember
crazy?
forever ago, when she was trying to secure her release from the asylum and had nothing else to give and wrote him a letter and was like, "Hey, sexy beast, you want to let me out of here and I'll give you my heart." And then he like let her on so she could write this and then get her kicked out of the asylum. So he gives this letter to the media and they release
That
it.
sly dog.
And people get mad at her
I
because they're like,
mean, yeah,
I mean, it's weird, right?
yeah.
So they published the letter she wrote to McFarlane as proof that the woman who wrote it was insane and bad. But also, the public was super pissed at McFarlane and they called him mean and they heard to buy her next book. And her next book was called Mrs. Packard's Prison Life.
I
Dang.
love that.
So, also in that book, after that book came out, Theophilus was like, all those statements are false.
Oh
Those are
yeah,
all
I bet
lies.
they are. I bet they are. I bet they are.
The governor had sat on the case and he did sit on it until he stepped down as governor and then the new gov and after he stepped down the committee announced that they supported the firing of Dr. McFarland on February 20th of 1869. And so
Yes.
Andrew McFarland said, I have drunk at the very deepest wells of humiliation and am humiliated.
Now go drink some poison.
I was like, damn.
I'm done with
Christina,
him.
In April of 1869, Elizabeth made her way to her grand purpose to win her children back.
Oh.
Her sons had made public statements that one of her son, like the one that was talking about her and saying like, "Dad, go get my mom. She's in the streets." He made public, like all of her older sons made public statements that their siblings would be better off in her care. And also, Theophilus had suffered because of the public outcry of his treatments of Elizabeth. Like, imagine being Theophilus when this book came out, when all the books came out. Like,
And
you're the
every
one that sent her there.
Yeah, and everyone like
Yeah.
having her back and buying her book and being like, "Who the fuck's this guy?"
I bet that just
You're
really
the
burned.
Theophilus.
I bet that just really burned his asshole.
He
Like a
was already
hot,
boring and sad anyway.
put a fire under him. He's like, this bitch.
I know.
Good. Good job, Elizabeth.
She was great for that part alone. He was still reliant on the charity of friends, and Elizabeth sent him money to care for the children. And at first he returned the money, and after more time goes by, and he just keeps more and more of it until he just doesn't ever return it back. In 1867, though, he paid off his debt, even though he still didn't have a job, because Elizabeth eventually let him sell the house, like sold off on selling the house, and so he pays off his debt. And she's like, I'm not even gonna bother with him anymore. Massachusetts had changed their laws and allowed married women to gain custody of their children. And although Elizabeth did try to go to court, in the end, Theophilus just gave up the children to her. And so she was able to have her kids. And in the
Yay!
book, they literally just hang out. She has custody of the kids, and Theophilus still comes by and hangs out with them all. She's just like, whatever.
But that's really big on her too, because I mean, like, it takes a lot. Like,
Yeah,
even though the things that she has done, which is probably why she's probably, honestly, she's as chill as she was, because she's like, because in my head, I'm like, oh, she should like resent him, right? To like the
right.
fullest
Yeah.
amount. But like, I feel like for her, it's like, he is beneath me. And that is still like the father to like the children and stuff. But like for her, it's just kind of like, he's not even worth my time. If he's here to see the kids, hang out, whatever. Because
Yeah, I don't care
she's
what you're
she's
doing.
done more than him, and
Yeah.
that's enough.
hmm No, I agree. I feel like that just as long as you're not trying to lock me up again,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
good.
Okay, okay.
Don't lock me up.
Oh, I love that for her. Oh my gosh.
Elizabeth fought tirelessly in her campaign to change the laws. She secured the passing of 34 bills across 24 states. She campaigned for the rights of women and the mentally ill, and her legal reforms were copied across numerous states, with some of them even bearing her name, Packard's Law.
Oh,
And so most of us don't know the name of the woman so vital to the rights that are literally at risk right now. And I feel like that's crazy. Like the fact that we talked about it earlier, but how did we not know about her? And how did it take us into my 30s at least to even know her name? Like, I think that's crazy. And that's why I picked her to be the subject of our story for a couple months or a couple weeks.
thanks for sharing your story.
Yes, thank you. What do you guys think about her and our fun times here? And also Theophilus.
Fuck that guy.
I
I
hate
don't
him.
like him.
Yeah. But no, I really loved, like, honestly, with this one, like, because it was very like, I guess what I'm getting at is like the roller coaster of this story versus the roller coaster of the team,
hmm
the what sport was it?
Rugby.
Rugby, the rugby team. Like that one was so like um roller coaster in the way of like intense. Like it was very intense, right? Because you're like,
Yeah.
are they gonna make it? Who's gonna make it? But like this one was a roller coaster, but it was like so impactful. And like
It
I
was like
loved
little moments of
hearing, yeah, yeah, and like seeing her little wins, and like I really loved like the progression of it. It was really good.
no, I liked it too. I love her growth, and her strength is just like
Oh yeah.
inspiring. Anyway. Oh my God. Evan, sorry, y'all. Evan sent me a picture from the outside. He's sitting outside and it's pictures of pigeons and he goes, "Look at these idiots looking for insects in our fake grass." And I'm like, "They're birds. They don't have an option. Like, what do you want from
They're
them?"
they're doing their best.
I know.
You tell him
Anyway,
they're the FBI cameras actually, and he should be
I'm gonna go
careful
I
what
tell
he
was
him I
gonna
put
says.
say
those
they're
outside.
they're they're probably not real because they should have
Yeah,
known that that's not real grass.
they're
I know,
cameras for
stupid.
sure. Stupid.
Anyway, thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Sip and Saga Society. If you have any histories, mysteries, or stories you think should be told, feel free to DM us on Instagram or Facebook at sipandsaga_society, or visit our website at sipandsaga.online. We also take Mug Monday photos. Please send me some. My friends are tired of me asking them to send me pictures. Anyways, thank you and bye.
Bye.
Bye.